Okay, cool. So today, the question is price and prejudice. So it's got nothing to do with the book Pride and Prejudice, right? It's just a play on the name, because there was a lot of conversations that came up over the last few sessions. There was things like what is black, who is black. We had the cultural capital session. We didn't even get to cultural appropriation and stuff, and then there was something I saw which kind of gave me the concept of focusing in on the idea of value specifically. So today we're going to be talking about that. So when we talk about first of all, can everyone see my bag in the back? Yeah, cool, just checking. All right, wicked. So so in terms of the context, I'm gonna do a little, not a pop quiz, just like a couple of questions just to get us a little bit warmed up. For those of you who haven't been in the group with us before, one of the things we'll do is, it's like Caramel said, your opinions are valid and all that good stuff. So contribute, whether it's by taking space in the video form or just basically writing up in the chats. So the first question, in terms of, I'm gonna ask it like this, real simple. Do you believe that you are valuable? It's a yes or no question. There's a reason why where we're going, by the way. So do you believe you are valuable? We're going to let a few responses. Most people are saying yes, which is a strong start. Now, yes. Okay. Tendai saying, Okay. While people believe, working on it. Honest answer. I like that. So for one of the people who said yes, can I get a response from you? Anyone? Unless you want me to come and find you, because you know I will. Sam, talk to me.
Hey man.
Yes, bro.
Good to see you again.
Always, man. Always a pleasure, bro.
Always. Yeah, I think everyone here is valuable. Value is obviously subjective. The measure of it is subjective. So that's why I think by default everyone's valuable, because where you might think you have no value, someone might see you do something and be like, oh, actually that person's actions are quite valuable in a way that they haven't yet seen, but I've recognized it. And the application of value is so broad, there's no limit to it. So yeah, I think I'm valuable because I think I'm valuable, one, because I'm willing to learn. And if you're willing to learn, then that means you're willing to then take on the teachings of the master or the teacher. And then upon mastering those foundations, your unique innovation can then be added to the mix and you create something new. So just by being a sponge and being ready to learn, you become valuable. Because even think about when our sometimes organizations invest in our training. For example, as employees or, whatever organization, type of organization, not necessarily work that you might be involved in. The fact that someone is like, actually, we want to put some money down towards your development in a particular area must mean that they see value in you. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Nice. All right. So anybody else? Hold on. Let's see who actually said yes as well. There's some good points. I was writing notes while you were talking. Esther, you said now yes. And we'll get to Chris in a sec.
I say now yes because it's been a process to get there, because I didn't value myself at all. Worth wasn't something that was with my name. Worth less was, or not worthy or anything like that. So for me, it's been a process where I've had to, how can I put this? Be broken down and built up again. But built up again in the sense that I did that. Not having, I guess, external factors building me up again, because that's the problem. When you base your value in external things or things that you do or things that you're about, if those things go away, who are you and what do you, not what do you bring, but who are you? And I think it's understanding that. And I think if you put your value in what you do and what people say you are, and validation, external validation for such, which I was doing, then it's very easy for you to not value yourself and allow people to treat you as whatever, because you don't see any value in who you are.
A lot of big points. Luckily, I have some of those down in notes already, but we're going to touch on a few of those, and we're going to focus on it from a couple of different perspectives as well, because I guess what you're talking about is like your own perceived value of self. So we're going to look at it from different angles as well. Chris, you says, I want to say no. Now, I'm not sure how the I want influences your you want to say no so that as a devil's advocate, or you want to say no because you don't feel like the value?
I want to say no, even I think it's a slightly contradictory position in which I'm speaking about. I think speaking to what Esther just said is, I believe our contribution, or what the example that we set our works, how we exist, is what is valuable. However, and that is what speaks to who we are. But if I was to say, and this is completely, I guarantee you someone's going to come at me straight away and be like, but it's you. I know that's going to happen.
No other way.
It's fact, right? But when I see, do you believe you are valuable as default? I believe that is rooted in potential.
Okay.
And this is debatable, and I'm all up for the debate. So I would say, answer that question is that I don't believe I have obstacles when it comes down to identifying what I'm capable of. And I don't mean that as monetary gain or as acts of, but I regard it as the fruits of my spirit and what it is that I can put out there. And that's where I see the value in your contribution, not on, let's say, a financial basis, but it might even just be in companionship or partnership or things like that. I see the fruits of that. Now, you can argue that's all from the source, but I think I've opened up a can of worms, so we can break that up later.
No, let's bring it up now. So I've got a question. I have a question. So, and this is actually, actually, yeah, I'll ask it now and then I'll come back to what I was going to do later. Open question to everyone. Noza says, yes, I am valuable. And it doesn't necessarily go against what anyone has said in the comments so far in terms of yes, no, and maybe. But genuine question, if you never achieved anything, would you still be valuable? That will be the next question. Answers in the chats. If you never achieved anything. It's up to you, bro. Achieved anything according to your standards, the world's standards, your own perception of success, whatever you want. Insert definition here. If you never achieved anything. We have a few yeses. I'll wait for a few more. Chris, are you talking amoeba level of nothing?
Yeah,
that's amoeba, as in the single-celled organism.
Yeah, the one that does nothing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like to that level. Sorry, I've never seen it spelt like that. Where's the O, bro? But yeah, so yeah, at amoeba level. Sam says, "Oh, by the way, Esther, you were on mute. If you were trying to say something, I couldn't hear you." Sam says, "Still valuable, but this reflexive exercise is almost like a paradox. I'd like to believe that even if I achieve nothing, I'd still be valuable. But there's that I'd like to again. So I'd like to believe. So does that? So go on, Sam."
Yeah, reason being, that's why I think it's such a paradox, because in essence, what we're being asked, and I think it's great, we're now being forced to see ourselves from the outside. Mm-hmm. And so hence why I say I'd like to. Me being me and having confidence in myself, that's a given. But in this imaginary scenario where it's like, gosh, like, as you said, by my own goals or subjective standards, let's say I didn't reach them, my own personal ones, what would that be like? Now that's difficult because I assume that everyone in this room, you know, I'd hope to God that they feel that they've achieved so much, and I'm pretty sure everyone has. So it's almost like, that's why I say I'd like to. But before that, I'm like, of course, like everyone's valuable, definitely. Like that's just my half glass full mindset and attitude to people in life. So that I'd like to is almost like a polite way of saying, yeah, I'm sure everyone's capable of achievement and something, you know.
One thing I'd like to point out at this point is, obviously, for those who have been in these chats before, you know that when we ask these kind of questions, we actually want you to be as critical, as deep thinking, as whatever, and real and honest with yourself and everything as possible. So some of these questions that we ask might seem really simple on the surface level until you genuinely start to ask them. So I was in an open, like a group therapy session recently, right? And one of the things they asked is, are you valuable? Like, no, actually their question was, because it was off the back of Black Lives Matter, does your life matter? So they asked it, and the first time everyone was like, yeah, of course, standard. And then she asked it again. And then we actually had to stop and ask ourselves the question. And when you actually stop to actually ask it and be like, first of all, take away all the, like, you know, the idealist views and all this kind of stuff. Like, does it actually matter, like in the scale of things? So if we're talking about like a universal level or individual level, like, do we actually believe it? So when we're answering these questions, try and look at that level. So I'm glad that you were honest enough to be like, you know, if you're from the outside, you might have to question parts of it. Even from the inside looking out, like we question it. Chris is writing a few things. Teresa as well. So Chris says, worthy is different to value, I think. Yeah. And Chris says, this is the question of purpose. Religions have attempted to answer this. Politics approach is productivity. The foundation is the will to evolve and share. And Esther says, value, the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. Okay, so let's go through some of these comments, if we will. Teresa, you said worth is different to value, I think. What to you feels like the difference, if you're still there? Wait, is Teresa still here? While she's coming back, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Sir. I don't know why that sounds so weird coming from you.
It's coming to me, bro. I think
you had a couple of comments here. The one about I mean, the purpose, religions and politics thing, that could be a whole conversation in itself, right?
Yeah.
But you were talking about the will to evolve and share. Could you elaborate on that bit?
Yeah, my previous statement, which came after the amoeba kind of comment, was was that, and I think Sam made a comment, which was, you're not unworthy because you fail. Right? And I think that's where people build up the concept of worthiness or value, because they only see value as a result at the end of an equation. but I class failure at a higher level than success. And if I can give you an example, is I'm going to give you a really crude example, but I think it might help. We all know someone who's extremely attractive to the large majority of the population.
Stop.
Right. And then we know somebody who may not necessarily be appreciated on the masses because they have very specific regional kind of like aesthetics. So therefore, there are certain, this is psychological kind of like development. There are certain characteristics and skills that are developed in those that have to engage in more skill sets to survive, right? While others are maybe gifted, given a slightly easier ride. This is like historically and philosophically and therapeutically done.
This is based on societal, yeah?
Yes, this is based on society. So that's why I regard failure as a high level of success, because you learn more. And the race of life is to fail quicker and more often than others. So
you've been listening to them podcasts, bruv.
You know, I hate podcasts, by the way. But just books. But anyway, my attempt to kind of break this down was, when you take everybody's comments into consideration, whether it's religion or politics. So if you look at Foucault wrote about the confessional box in Catholicism, and spoke about that in a time where people were trying to develop laws to govern society, the Catholic Church was finding a way to govern souls. Hence why confessions were upgraded to be regular things on a basis, right? Where people can understand how people are behaving. They were trying to evaluate, how do we make productive citizens of society? And that was based on purpose and potential. But even if you can argue that even if you do not necessarily achieve anything, or your works or the fruits of your labor are not necessarily of positivity, the potential is where the value is placed. So
who decides that value?
Pardon?
Who decides that value?
That's a more complicated answer, but that depends on the environment and society in terms of the structure in which you live in. So, for example, if you live in a community that is purely based off of a currency of affection and building personal kind of like wealth in terms of like social skills and emotional development, but you have ways to manufacture and produce certain things, but that's not valued in that community, then it's deemed as worthless. But that's where you have to be careful and align where you want to live, which is why we all have the discussions of moving back to Africa or moving to another city or another country, because our value systems do not align with the way that we want to live.
So one of the things you just pointed out there is like value aligning with the values of the environment, I guess, that you're around.
And need.
Sorry, go on.
And need.
Value and need.
Yeah.
So
okay. The difference is, what do you need in order to survive? So this is like, you can go a little bit further. You can talk about communist capitalists. There is no greater value in any role rather than the functioning ecosystem of the community. So nothing is regarded higher or lower. But then on the opposite side, if you clean my poo, you're worth less because that's a menial job. If I save lives, it's higher. So therefore you get paid differently. So you get my point.
Yeah. Okay. Does everyone understand that conversation that we had so far? Does anyone have anything to kind of like throw into that mix? Cads, talk to me. Your facial expressions are doing all kinds of stuff.
Right about now, I'm a bit confused. What are we talking about? Are we talking about our self-value, what we see, what our values are, or what society deems to be our value? What are we talking about? Because we went into different realms for me. That's why I'm a bit lost.
So basically, when I asked the question, just like Chris is saying, both. So when I first asked the question, it was an open-ended question deliberately, because I find sometimes people place their value on themselves, as in they dictate it. And then sometimes people consider the values that are placed by the environment they're in. And so what Chris's response was pointing out is the different factors to what that perceived value may be. So in the same way as how I might think I'm great, right? But it's probably because you know, the world tells me I'm great. So if I'm a middle-aged white man, for example, I might have a different perception of what my innate value might be than someone else, just because of the way I'm treated, because of whatever, in addition to me pushing out from the inward, as an example. So it's a bit of both in that sense. But he was talking about the idea of also having your values and needs aligning with the environment you're in, and so how that perceived value can change depending on where you are as well. If that is a adequate summarization of what was said, Chris. So Bumblebee Tuna, wonderful. Chris says,
sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that in terms of value, it's different between men and women, because I was reading something, somebody posted something on Facebook last time and asked, what are men's value? How valuable are men in today's society? That was the question. And what the guy was trying to get at was the fact that if I do nothing and I have achieved nothing, I won't be able to find a partner.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So in today's society, because, you know, women will want a man who can work, who can do this, who has that's how value is attributed. Whereas a woman can do nothing and still end up in a great marriage and have somebody who look after her. Sorry. So I think it depends on the gender as well. What do you think?
I think it depends on a lot of things, and like we said, it's both. Jerome. Oh, sorry, your facial expression. I thought you're about to say something with your eyebrows. So yeah, because I think similar to what we're talking about, like even if you're talking about in the sense of because we all know society, if we were to step back from it, and instead of, again, we can look at this from different ways. It could be what I perceive about myself, being what I've taught myself, my morning affirmations, all that kind of stuff, like how I've built my fortress around me. But even that is going to be built on ideas that I get from somewhere, whether it's the way I was brought up and all that kind of stuff, things I've read, things that my mind are open up to. But then the society will sometimes, there was an interview by with James Baldwin, and I can't remember who was asking him questions and stuff, but he was basically saying, you want me to believe in this idea based on things I haven't seen. So I don't know if the society is racist, but I know that unions won't let me in. I don't know if your education is racist, but I know they don't talk about my people and in the light, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, for example, going back to what you're talking about, when you bring gender into it, I completely agree. Like, we had a session where we should talk about roles and responsibilities of genders, so that will kind of like come off the back of that. But I'm talking too much already, but definitely agree. Is there anyone who wants to go and add a little bit onto what Cad said while I catch up with the comments?
Can I jump in, guys?
Absolutely, bro.
Evening all. Hello,
good evening.
Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, I think the whole idea of value, it definitely is influenced by what people think and what society is dictating around you, I think. And I think that's where we have to really be careful, because I think we get to a space where our value is determined by what other people have said is valuable, kind of thing. And I think that's a dangerous place to be in. That's why I think you see so many people, for example, will kill themselves, go through university, do X, Y, Z to get a specific type of job, and then end up depressed 5 years into it, kind of thing. So I think it's a very dangerous ground to be in. But in terms of value, I think everyone is valuable to someone, kind of thing. I think that's something to bear in mind. And I think we shouldn't think of things, because sometimes in life we have this thing, right, which we put pressure on ourselves, like, okay, by 20 I must do this, by 25 I must do this, by 30 I must have this, by 35 I must have this. And really and truly, all things being equal, we're going to be living till we're about 80 years old. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes we ourselves, based on what other people are doing or saying or what other people are saying in our environment around us, we put that pressure on ourselves. So everyone, just to, I kind of go with the initial open question. I think everyone has value, even if you think, quote unquote, you haven't achieved anything yet, because do you know what I mean? Like, you're not on your deathbed, there's still time, kind of thing. So I think those are just things to kind of think about and throw into the mix, really. Like, let's not put this time frame on our lives and think, okay, we're 30, we're 35, we're 40, therefore I should have this, I should have achieved X, Y, Z. Because really and truly, I think it's a dangerous game to be playing. That's just what I wanted to add for now. Kill a bit of time whilst you catch up on the comments. But yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Thank you for being so thoughtless.
There you go.
Thoughtful. Appreciate it, man. No, it's a good point. It's a good point, man. And especially it then becomes like one hell of a moving target as well. Jerome, you had your hand up.
Yeah, because I think that kind of matches what I was thinking. Obviously, I've joined a little bit late, so I may have missed a couple of things. But
No worries.
the idea, just within that question of value, what is value? And if I think about it more conceptually than what values we have and what we put value on, value indicates to me a transaction of some sort, right? So easy one to, obviously, I get a produce, I give money, but it goes further than that. So as I put in the comments, it's like, it's not necessarily monetary, like relationships, functional, emotional, like you can have an emotional value to someone. You could, and so when you think of all those sorts of value, the achievements that are relative to those values change. So again, much of the conversation that I've come into later on there was talking about achievements being, I've got this in life, I've got that, I've got this degree, I've got, that means nothing on an emotional level. If I'm talking about emotional transaction, that achievement means nothing. So each of these, to be valuable means you have value, but what area of value are we looking at anyway? Because there is always value in something. It might not be what you're looking for.
Interesting point. Anyone have anything to add to it? No? Love it. Quick thing, the idea of moving targets, right? I was just thinking about generally in terms of, like, let's say, for example, we were talking about gold. And if we were to use that as I know it might not be a direct comparison, but the value of gold changes through time. But then also, if I was on an island with nothing else there, having a gold bar wouldn't necessarily be valuable to me without having people to exchange it with. And I'm adding that to what you said, Jerome, in terms of the transaction side of things. So like, because in that scenario, it might be clean water that might be valuable. You know, it might be food. It might be, I don't know, a knife so I can chop wood and all that kind of stuff. So how does that relate to ourselves? I'm trying to form a question in in my head. Is there a value of ourselves that is finite? I guess maybe is what I'm asking. Like, is there something that is unwavering? Like, regardless of the environment, regardless of the transaction, is there an element of us that remains, this part is valuable? I don't know how exactly to write that as a question, but but if you know what I mean, if you could respond to that. Chris says currency of the land and situation. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Food is always valuable. Amen. 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 Hey, Samuel says, as we alluded to above, value depends on the particular definitions in particular contexts. Thus, it's all subjective based on different personal perspectives. This is true. The concept of value is not finite. When I answered yes to the question, I think I was simply thinking that achievements or not, I'd always be valued by my mother. Yeah, exactly. Like similar to can't remember who said it, but Tony was saying that you'll be valued by someone. Rudzani says, I think once we can figure that out, we will find true happiness. Maybe. So, so are we going by Jerome's response to that, where the concept of value is not finite? So there's nothing that we can use, even if we're talking about ourselves, that is like a baseline. This means that it is valuable. Is that what we're saying? Yeah. So the entire value is dependent on its environment, its transactions, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. If S says, or are we a society who is constantly seeking something? So can we truly be content and find ourselves to be valuable? Can we? Anyone have an answer to that?
Sorry,
Rudzani.
I'm just asking because I think someone said happiness, find true happiness. What does that even mean? Because it's all different, it's all relative to different people. And I feel like we're very much in a society where we're constantly wanting more. Like having one thing is not enough. We're constantly wanting more, constantly bombarded. So I'm just thinking, like, will we ever be content? Will we ever be truly happy enough to say, yeah, this is it? Or are we constantly looking for more? Because there's always something, I don't know, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Rudzani thinks we can. Would you care to elaborate? If you're still there? There you go.
Hi, Sam. I am still here. Sorry, my camera's off. I'm on my way home.
No problem.
Walking. There was something that Esther just said at the end. And where you said the grass is greener on the other side. And I actually saw a post, I think it was yesterday, that said the grass is greener where you water it. And I think that's like, for me, I'm a very spiritual person. And I like the whole, like, I believe everyone on this earth is a God of some form. And when you learn to like love and protect the God inside of you and have that understanding within yourself, then the fact that you just exist is enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's for me, it's not a constant thing. Like, I don't always feel this way. Sometimes things happen and I'm like, oh my God, am I valuable? Am I all of this? But I felt like my foundation, like deep down in myself, if I connect to my God inside of me, I know that I'm valuable. You know what I mean? So and I think because we're not meant to be islands, because we're supposed to exist as a community, it's like this. That's why the skills that you have and the skills that someone else has might not be the same thing, but it's supposed to be like when we bring them together, it makes sense. So if you look at an entity just by itself, like if you're seeing a photo and you can only see a small part of it and you're not getting the whole picture, you might not see the value. You might just be like, that's just a black square though, right? Because it's just alone. But when we draw in everybody's resources, that's why it's like community, tribes, whatever it is that you want to call it. And we all, sorry guys, hold on. Are you coming in? Yeah? No worries, you're good. Sure. Yes. It's once we understand like the power that we have within us.
You there? Oh, she's gone. Okay, so once you understand the power we have within us, I'm gonna go. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought you'd.
No. Don't be. It's cool. I accidentally hit the mute thing. So yeah, I think that's for me. Like that's what I chase. Like that's my that constant feeling of just being like, I am enough, just existing, just as an energy, just as an entity. And I know that I've got value because when I feel like my value is not taken seriously or I feel disrespected, I lose my shit. And I wouldn't do that if I didn't feel valuable. Do you know what I mean? Like if I didn't see my own value, I wouldn't react when people, used in a certain way. So I think for me, it is that thing of just understanding and really believing in yourself. And it's not easy. I know I'm talking now like this is like my daily thing, and I'm some yoga person who's just like got everything under control. I don't. I really don't. But I strive for that on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's what I meant. Like when we can understand that, when we realize the power that we all have, you can respect other people easily, because you know you don't see yourself as better than.
Okay, I'm going. That was dope, by the way, Madame. Hope you get home safe. Sounds like you're at least in the building now. Two things, I guess. Like, I'm going to ask Sam and then Chris, just based on the comments. Sam, you were talking about comparison, and Chris, you were talking about asking the question, why are we valuable? So Sam and then Chris, in that order, if you can.
Yeah. So one of the main causes of unhappiness is comparison. It's being sometimes what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, before you know it, being swept up in your own thoughts. And sometimes there's thoughts that you end up getting swept up in before you know it. And I'm looking for a synonym for before you know it. Maybe subconsciously or automatically swept up in your thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts can center around what other people are doing. Gosh, this person's doing so well. And forgetting what you have and suddenly looking at the shiny accolade, object, experience that they have and saying, I don't have that just yet. I'd like to have that. The minute that disconnect happens from your present moment and you then fixate on the shiny accolade, experience, or object that you've remembered either through thought or what you've witnessed on social media, your contentment with your present starts to dissipate. So that's what I meant by the comparison point.
I get that. I think linking back to what was said in some of the comments before, it sounds like that is something that's kind of like a lot of people could in especially within a capitalist kind of like society. May I add, going back to Esther's point about always wanting more, grass always be greener, even though it's greener where you water it, it's also like what you water it with, I think. So yeah, I won't go too far down the road because I want to hear more from you lot. But Chris, you asked a really important question.
Which one?
Why, basically? Why are you valuable?
Yes. I believe Ruzani who was speaking, when she was talking about the why they're valuable when they dug deep. And I guess my question now, I think this is depending on what you subscribe to, it will be different for everybody. But the question is when you dig deep, why are you valuable? What is it that you're acknowledging or quantifying, whether in subjective, or whether through subjective means in terms of what you're capable to do or what you're aware of, or what you can actually execute. And that's where I think I asked Effie off microphone about the difference when we see that in society. I think off of what Kat said about when he went back to gender. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is that when we look at gender value in relationships, a lot of our valuation of women is based on their ability to reproduce. Right? So when you have the debate of biology versus divinity, and through also technology, when we are able, and I say we as in humans race, are able to grow children out of like samples, and women no longer need to give birth biologically, does the value of women diminish? And that's the same question where you look in terms of Islam, where you talk about, and also Christianity and quite a few Abrahamic religions, the value of a human being at virginity and post-sexual activity, and how we compensate for that. And that's where I guess the question that I'm asking is, what is it that people are acknowledging or counting to define or to quantify their value internally? Run society for a minute.
Let's do that, because that was going to be my next question anyway. The question is, why, Jerome says, the idea I'm working on is value is relative. I'm obviously building from the starting point. The value is based in a transaction, even water on the island being valuable in exchange for survival. Cool. So the question I'm going to pose to everyone is, what specifically to the people who said yes in the first question, because the first question was, are you valuable, right? So specifically to those, but actually open to everyone. Why are you valuable?
Oh, can I have a go?
Yeah, go for it, bro.
Oh, shit. So
Come on.
I'm still fiddling with this Zoom. I don't know how it works.
No worries, bro. The voice is even better.
Yeah, I would say, like, I think you're valuable so long as you contribute something. You contribute something that enriches someone or some scenario or some environment in some way. Then of course you're valuable, because, you know, if you take the scenario of someone was saying earlier that, okay, you've got the cleaner might not be deemed as valuable as a doctor, but if the cleaner doesn't clean, the place don't get cleaned. You get what I'm trying to say? So when you put a monetary value on it, yes, but in terms of the roles that everyone plays, everyone has a role to play in some shape or form. Granted, people might be in a situation where they don't quite know what their role is yet, or they haven't quite figured out where they fit in. But I mean, everyone is talented at something. Everyone is able to do something. So in every scenario, I think so long as you're bringing something to the table, you're contributing, even if you are the cleaner, to you are the person that paints the building, to you are the person that mixes the bricks to raise the foundation, to you are the person that's going to live in the house and I don't know, cultivate the land around it, whatever. Like, everyone, I think for me, I would say that's what constitutes value. You're adding to what you've met. You're developing what you've, I don't know if I'm articulating myself properly, but you're developing what you've met there. Do you know what I mean? You're adding some value, I guess, for lack of a better word. But that's what I would say. That's why I think everyone does have some value, because everyone has a role to play, kind of thing. So that's why I would say everyone has value, and they have value because you're bringing something to the table.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions in the comments that will kind of, I'm not going to say challenge, but kind of like delve a little bit deeper into that.
Oh, I see. Valuable to our parents. Kaz will say, why are we valuable to our parents? We're an extension of their life. That will make us valuable to them. Why else? Yeah, I think that's I mean, we bring them joy. I'd like to think we bring our parents joy. That's value. Do you know what I mean? Because if you compare, you know, maybe someone in their old age that doesn't have a child compared to someone that does have a child, that person that does have a child, I'm sure there's statistics out there that would tell you they probably would, I don't know, maybe live longer or have a happier being because they have offspring that are checking for them, et cetera, to put it kind of, you know, I mean, simply. But yeah, I'd say for that, so I was just skimming through the comments. I'm not wearing my glasses. But yeah, in terms of that, that's one way that a child would most definitely be valuable to a parent.
So let me ask you the question then. So I'm going to put the two comments together. Let's assume that you're a parent and you have a child that doesn't achieve anything. They never at whatever stage translate their gifts into produce, into contribution, whether it be a job, whether it be planting, whether it be whatever it might be, for whatever reason, they don't. And let's assume it's not because they can't.
Right. I think, yeah, go on.
How does that affect their value if it was based on?
No, because you're still judging people based on what job they do and how much money they have in the bank account, kind of, to an extent is where you're going with that. Because even if all they do is you know, make the hot water bottle for their mum every evening. That's value, surely. Do you know what I mean? Even if all they're doing is keeping their mum company, even if all they're doing is doing mum shopping, that's value, surely. I would say anyway. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I think
But I
that's what I'm
mean,
saying.
what if they don't do that?
Oh, okay. They're just like a waste child type of thing, and they're just like, "F you,
yeah.
mum, them ones."
Yeah.
I still think, even in those scenarios, right? I still think there's a certain joy. As a parent myself, there's a certain joy and gratification and achievement, sense of achievement just for having a child, I would say. So even if your child, because even if you look at scenarios where the kid no longer speaks to the mom and the mom is still happy for the child, the mom is still proud of the child. You get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, and I think just knowing that they have a child out there that is probably doing something for someone, yeah, I think so. But yes, you might have the odd occasion where the child's just like a bad breed and they're just like F you mom and they don't want to. But I don't know. That's a really extreme hypothetical. I would say that there must be something they're doing. I feel. But yeah, sometimes just being, do you know what I mean? Because a child is a blessing ultimately. So just being, you've brought value to that mother or that father. The fact that you're out there, the fact that you can potentially one day do better than they did. The fact that potentially one day you're going to take this baton that they're going to pass to you, whether it's a physical baton or, do you know what I mean? It's just like a metaphorical comparison. But you're going to go off into the world and do things and they've helped you. Yeah, like you're always going to be valuable in that sense.
Okay, so we have Jerome and Teresa. I'm not sure who put their hand up first. Teresa first and then Jerome.
Sorry, I've missed the whole of the conversation. Obviously, I've just come in at this point. But from what you were talking about in terms of value with parents, I think it's very different. Parents look at their children with the eyes of unconditional love. That comes before anything else. And I don't think they see it in terms of, right, I've had this child, what can they give to the world? I guess the first few years or whatever of having a child, it's more about like, how do I keep this child safe and alive? You know, there's other things that parents, I guess, think about and worry about. I think there are selfish reasons as to why parents can have children. I'm not saying all parents, but I've seen, you know, some of my friends have had children for whatever reasons to fulfill certain needs in them. So I don't think they're looking at things in terms of value, like what Tony was saying. You can never really be wrong in your parents' eyes if that's the case, if it was that you had a child because you're fulfilling a need. And I think sometimes when parents look at their children, it's like he was saying, an extension of themselves. It's more of like, what have I achieved as a parent? So I see my achievements and my values reflected in just you existing sometimes. So whether or not the child has done anything in terms of bringing the mum water bottles or whatever, just a simple fact that, oh, I've grown up a fine young man and, you know, and he's alive and he's very kind and whatever. Like, I think sometimes those things get kind of, those things get viewed as opposed, like, you know, the love that a parent has for their child, as opposed to, you know, like, what is their value in this world? So I think I don't know how much that question can be, I don't know, in terms of the connection with that question. There was something else I wanted to say, sorry, in regards to earlier when you first asked the question, if somebody never contributed anything at all, are they valuable, I think you're saying? And I was saying, I'm not sure. For me, in terms of value, is like what you bring, what you contribute and things like that. And I think somebody was saying worthy, and like there were other words floating around. And for me, I don't think it's the same thing. So, you know, if it's like, are you worthy? Are you valuable? Are you loved? Yeah, they're all very, very different things. Or are you still a lovable person or worthy person? That's not contribution as such. I don't know. Maybe I've missed this whole kind of chat.
No, I think you're just talking about different angles of the conversation, which is cool. So you're kind of so you talked about the contribution, and that sounds like something you can kind of almost quantify. I'm going to bring, actually, do you know what, I'm going to go to Jerome, and then I'm going to bring Noza in, because you were talking about a different metric a minute ago, and I want to bring you in before I forget that. So Jerome and then Noza.
Yeah, So I'm kind of doubling down on my thought a little bit here, but what I said there is you have in yourself, everyone has in themselves all value and no value at the same time. Because if you take the idea that I said earlier, that value is essentially relative, value is based on the transaction of that moment, then you are only as valuable as what the transaction is and requires. So, for example, taking the parent-child, it's very personal into even the parent's perception, but what they hold as an ideal and then fulfilling that is whether their child has value to them. Now, taking away the job, so obviously that is born from the values the societal and values they hold is whether their child is going to be valuable. So if they have been raised to think they need to get a good job for stability and this and that is where their value is going to, they're going to derive the value of that other person and anyone else. So but if there's because there's a kind of generational shift happening where we value the interpersonal relationships more, possibly, then that emotional connection is valued as more. Someone being in touch with their emotions is being so again, all these transactions dictate the value that comes. So I think you were moving to someone else there with the idea of a different metric. The metrics change constantly depending on the transaction.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a relationship with someone, the thing I might be valuing is the love. Are they able to attend to my needs? Are they able to attend to my language of love? Because at that point, that's when their value becomes apparent. But it might not be everything that is needed, but it's if we're talking about people are not one-dimensional. So you can't think any one thing is ever going to prove value.
Definitely. Thanks for that. I've written down something around the value becoming apparent. I quite like the idea of that in terms of like having the opportunity to see it. Innate value, but then you don't necessarily see it until the right conditions arise. Something along those lines. Noza, you were saying something along the lines of, let me read it out. You said value is the impact and positive influence you have on the people around you, whatever that may be. That could be by inspiring from the things you do to the words you offer people.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think that is the main sort of anchor that holds everything together. So I know a few guys have mentioned sort of financial value or societal value, that kind of external sort of values on the person. But I actually do think like everyone's value, in net value, is determined by our sort of impact and how, you know, we positively sort of influence the people around us. Now, that comes in different examples, from your parents to your colleagues to, you know, your friends at school or your friends, or, you know, in general, is that, you know, do people actually, does your presence, does it positively impact people around you? Then you're of value. Doesn't matter how rich you are, doesn't matter where you live, or and that those sort of stuff, or whatever you've achieved basically. And, you know, as an individual, when you feel as though that your people around you do appreciate your presence and appreciate your sort of you as an individual, that basically makes you feel yourself more valuable. And you often find that people get depressed when they feel like they're not appreciated, basically, which is a different topic. But that's where all of that comes from. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how successful you are. You could be a CEO of a company. If the people around you don't feel like you're value, you're not successful. That's the truth, really. You can ask, you know, the richest people in the world. Some of them, you know, like you have celebrities that, you know, commit suicide and take drugs and so on and so forth. But that's because they don't, you know, they don't feel sort of satisfied or accomplished in what they've done. So anyway.
Yeah, good food for thought. unless anyone has something they want to add to that, I'm just going to quickly read through some of the comments because there's literally like
Can I
catching up on. Tony,
can I jump in again? Sorry.
oh wait, yeah.
I just want to say, just building on from that, I think we really have to know what we want as individuals, because I think the notion of success is definitely very relative. So, you know, assuming you're successful just because people tell you you're successful is, I don't know, I think is a dangerous path again. And then what is success? Because success to me and success to the next man might be different things. Like for me, success is being able to do what I love to do every day and feed my family from it. Do you understand what I'm saying? To someone else, success might be able to, you know, pulling in 50 G's a year or whatever kind of thing. So I think it's all relative. And I think it maybe starts from knowing, well, exactly what do you want? What counts as success or happiness or happiness for you kind of thing? Because, and I think that's what it really comes down to. And also, I guess, kind of knowing yourself and being your authentic self. I'm kind of going into counseling terms now, but being your authentic self on a day-to-day basis, not having to conform or whatever, and just I guess live your best life, for lack of a better phrase. But I think it maybe starts with us being very specific in terms of what do we actually want, what constitutes happiness to us, not necessarily to someone else. Because like I say, just to wrap it up, what makes me happy is a very simple kind of thing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it's not unachievable. But then someone else might look at it, well, I need to hit CEO level, I need to be pulling in 100 grand a year, etc., etc. And then sometimes you might well find that you are doing all of that just to please other people. So when you actually get to that place, you're still unhappy, hence the depression and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think figure out what it is, what makes you happy on an individual basis, and just run with that. So I wanted to just add to that one there. I'll jump out again.
Definitely agree with what you said there. Like, I'm a big advocate for ownership of everything, especially the mind, especially our journeys and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen a lot of people who have lost a lot by running after everyone else's goals. So I definitely agree with that. Whether it turns inwards in any kind of way, shape or form. I feel like there was another voice when you started speaking, that someone else who was going to say something. Esther, was that you?
No, it was me. But,
Caramel, yeah, go for it.
I don't know. I don't think it's not that it's not valid, but you know, okay.
In a conversation about value, everything is valuable.
I'm back in the room. I'm back in the room. Just in regards to, like, I mean, everybody's kind of touched on bits, but when you ask, like, why do you feel, the people at the beginning when they said yes, I'm valuable, or I feel, you know, there's a saying that just keeps coming back in my head, and it's that whole thing of, like, if somebody did nothing, are they valuable? They would be valuable to me because I have an attitude of thank you for showing me how not to be. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So I value that person because they've shown me a better way to. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I just wanted to throw it in because, I mean, Chris touched on it, like, that's why the word keeps changing from purpose to blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw it in just in respect of, like, you are always valued, even if you don't think you are, because like Rizani said, you know, we're not supposed to be an island. We're supposed to be a community. So somebody's going to learn something from you, whether you know it or not. Somebody's going to take something from you, whether you know that or not.
That's a very interesting point about the value not necessarily being based on achieving, but it could be the value that someone would learn from you even by not doing so. Interesting perspective. Rizani, you're nodding your head.
I am. I am, because I do agree with that. Like, there's, you know, I'm trying to remember what someone and who it was, but I guess it's not important. But it is that thing of, like, you can learn from every situation. Someone was saying that they see failure more, like they value it more than success. And I'm so sorry because I can't remember who that was. But it is that thing of, like, when you're in a situation and something happens and it's not your desired outcome, you can easily walk away from that situation not learning anything because you didn't get what you wanted from that situation. So you just close that door. but every interaction and every person, everything that's happening around us is there for us to learn from, you know. And I think it was very interesting when Carabelle was saying, you know, the value of seeing something and being like, I don't really want to be that way. And it's yes, it's a judgment, but we all have judgments, because the judgment is just an opinion of something. It's your thought process on something. So being able to be like, okay, cool, I don't want to exist that way, or I don't want to live that way. Yeah, it was a good reminder for me to find value in everything. So that's why I was nodding.
I hear that. I'm going to go through some of these comments now. I'm literally just going to blitz them, and then because there's another section of this talk I want to switch it to. If there's anyone who wants to jump in and stuff, just let me know. Wait till just take a note and just wait till I get through the comments, and then we can respond to it all together. Yeah, and then we'll move on to the next part. So Chris says, I heard somebody say that having children is one of the most narcissistic things you can do. SSS for some parents. He also said that another person said that people having children seeking love, but realized all they wanted to do was have somewhere to give love. Interesting. Sam says, Chris, was a more rhetorical question, not necessarily directed at you per se. Fist bump. Chris says, I hear you, but it's a valuable question. We should all ask ourselves, be and go where you're valued. Esther says, so does that mean that their life is not valuable? Chris says, all life is valuable, but each has a role and a role for balance. I think humanly we have removed ourselves from a system, which is why we have the issue or looking or questioning or our value. Necessity versus thrill, possibly. That's not what I'm hearing from the responses in terms of value, Chris. I hear you. I think that's why the words keep changing. Value, worth, purpose. Sorry, there's a plane flying overhead. Please bear with me. I'm still staying grounded. When you're born when you're on your own, does value matter? Interesting. We'll come back. If you're isolated, would personal value be a thing? Interesting. Chris says how people treat you versus how you treat Ra. There's just a lot of things. How people treat you versus how you treat yourself. If you value yourself, we wouldn't self-harm. We would be kinder to ourselves. Interesting. Maiva says that's Bible. Word, Chris, any harm? I'm stepping back from the real world slightly, but if there was no society, if you walk this would be world alone, would value matter? Interesting. Let's keep that as a concept. I'm going to skip some of these because there's so many to get through. Chris says CADs for the impressionable, yes, but we need to remedy this. My opinion of you shouldn't impact you. At the very most, push you to self-examine in a safe space if my observation matters to you. There's a lot of variables in that which could be picked apart actually to understand it even better. Chris, how do you personally derive your values? Where do you get them from, if not experience, people, or environment? You learn more from failure than you do success. If you just succeed without ever failing, you don't have a metric for why. Spend too much time trying to impress. Or does anyone have any points that they kind of want to be covered? Because these are just so, I'm just reading out conversations right now. If anybody has anything in the comments that actually, wait, let me just read this last one. My values are based on my pursuit of ascension, trying to unlock my potential in every aspect of my being. Every time I unlock a new level of higher operation, I share with those who are around, who are behind, assuming they want to evolve too. So Jerome and Cads have your hand up. Is there anyone else? And then we're basically gonna say your piece, and then I'm gonna go on to the next section. Jerome and then Cads.
So yeah, my question there regarding basically, if for a second we imagine we were the only person on this world, would the idea of value even be a thing? Because this is why I kind of went back a little bit and said I feel like we have all value and no value at the same time. Because if for me, if I'm looking at it as a transaction, if I'm not interacting with anything, there is no need for the value. So the value, as like I mentioned last time, I think I said, to me is almost momentary rather than permanent.
So you're basically asking, is value a construct? Is it an idea?
I feel like it is.
Right. Okay. Cool. And Cads.
Chris, get over here. Right now. So the question I asked Chris was that where does he derive his values from? And he said it's in the pursuit of ascension, if you said, correct me, right? To unlock new potential and whatnot. But my question still remains, Chris, in the pursuit of ascension and trying to unlock new potential, isn't that experience? How do you unlock that? Is that, you need to do things, you need to have experience, you need to experience things in order to unlock that. So if that's the case, then you are deriving your values, your personal values, through experience, which, in order to, what am I looking for? Go on. That's what I wanted to say.
You're talking about the process.
I'm talking about the process because the question I was asking, where was I? Sorry, completely lost what I was saying. Because I was asking Chris, right? Where does he derive his values from, if not through other interactions of his views of him, the society? Apart from that, where does he derive his own personal views from, if not through experience, if not through interaction with other people and everything like that? So you've got to live in order to have a set of values.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do things, because a baby, for example, a newborn baby doesn't have values, doesn't have personal values, unless the baby starts to learn new things, and that environment has a massive impact on where the baby, growing up, will derive their values from. So that's what I wanted to ask Chris. Over to you.
That's a deep question. Do you want to go into your next topic and then I answer that privately?
Yeah, definitely. And if we were to add that to what Jerome says, hypothetically, it's going to be a construct regardless. It's going to be something that we put on, we create. If we're going to add it to Sam's comment just now as well, is another level that we haven't really discussed about, in a way, is the need for value. So you just mentioned babies, like, do they have a concept of it? Do they consider themselves value? Like, why do we need value? I guess I'm going to read the comment out. It says, and in fact, the need for value adds more pressure on the individual, object, or scenario. On the contrary, knowing one's inherent worth and inherent value dissipates that sense of pressure or tension. Interesting. I'm not sure if it does, but I think it's a good question. Surely it's still anchored inside it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So Tendai says, can we say that to exist is to be of value? Quick one, yes or no? In the comments. I'll give a minute to put a few in there. And I'm rounding this part of the conversation up because of the next part. I didn't want to get to the end of the session without really getting into it. So there's a few people who say yes. Jerome says no, and Sam says yes and no. I'm assuming your response is based on the things that you've said so far in the conversation, whether it's be contribution, whether it means societal value and all that kind of stuff. So you're basically saying that value is conditional. Sam?
Yes, for a minute, I forgot how to use this.
No, we all. I say Sam because Jerome nodded. So you're saying value is conditional, effectively.
That's it, exactly. And I was actually going to say, on the same vein that Jerome had already expressed, which is, I completely get that. It's something I've been thinking about for years, about if you had no people around you, would you be able to feel confident that you have some sort of purpose, just confident in yourself, forget even purpose, just will you be able to survive? That's a tricky question and scenario to put forth, because as far as I know, I haven't spoken to any individual who's been totally isolated for a certain amount of time and has had no access to another individual outside of a particular vicinity unless they're like locked up in isolation. So I think to answer the yes, so can we say that to exist to value? Going on the spiritual side that a lot of people have mentioned already, yes, and each one's spirituality is unique to themselves. So I won't go too much into if you believe that we've come from source and that source is omnipresent, benevolent, and was it omnipresent, benevolent, and omniscient, you're going to believe that some of those traits have also been passed on to you. The moniker of source in itself indicates an origin of something. So you know, much like when the Bible says, you know, and God made man in their image and their likeness. Who they was, that's another topic. But yeah, so that's the yes part. And then no, again, going along the same veins as what Jerome mentioned about, actually I've already said that, which is, yeah. And it ties into what I said before, and hopefully my thread of thought isn't too convoluted here, but the fact that we feel like we might need to feel valuable, maybe we're not, you know? And I think it's such a tricky one. I don't know if you can tell how I'm sort of the snake eating its tail here, because it goes back on itself about...
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
I think if I was to jump into what you're saying, I would actually go back to one of the things you said earlier on in the conversation, which is where you need to define it for yourself in the first place. So I think that is one of the things that would help stop that snake eating its tail. So if it's something, I think if you're taking the islands example and the isolation, I think if you were born in isolation, I think Jerome maybe asked that question, that will probably have a different answer to someone who has been in a society and finds themselves in isolation. So they've already had the constructs in their head, and now they find themselves in isolation, and all the things that they had placed value in no longer exist. So I think that will be two separate conversations almost. But I definitely understand, like, in terms of the spiritual, I think it sounds like most people are kind of in that, on board in terms of the spiritual side, but then maybe societal side, there's a bit more of a complex answer involved. Either way, it sounds like it's more important that we are the ones that decide it for ourselves. And like, we haven't even gone to like the measure, like how we can actually measure that, but it's up to us to kind of put that so that we have control of that, ownership of it. Jerome says, but if all life has value and all human life is of equal value, it may as well be valueless. The idea of needing value is what that is rooted in. If everything has zero value, everything has all value. I agree and disagree. I think if everything was, in terms of relative, I agree. But if everything was £1,000, doesn't mean it's not worth £1,000. Still worth 1,000. If I don't have 1,000, then everyone is valuable. But yeah, everything and nothing simultaneously. So next part of the conversation, just rolling this through, is so far we've talked about the individual, and I was going to go incrementally bigger, but we're just going to jump straight to it. Communities. Let's talk about us. So I'm going to ask the same questions again, and this time we're not talking about us as in an individual. We're talking about us as a community. And let's assume us to be Garveyites, and we are Pan-African. And I say that deliberately because I feel like there are so many different aspects of our experience, but some of them have common ground. So we're going to ask the questions again, okay? And this time we're not talking about you as an individual. We're talking about Black folk. Everyone on the same page so far? Yeah? Okay, cool. So first question is, do you believe we are valuable? Yes or no? Man's put yes already. All right, okay. Do you believe we are valuable? Everyone's dropping the yes mics. To infinity. Okay, without a shadow of a doubt. Noza, we're saying black people here. Jerome says in society, yes. Okay, cool. I think that's most people. I'm just going to whip through some of these because I think the further we get into these questions, the more interesting I think the answers might become. Okay, so the next question really is, okay, this is a question that we haven't actually, okay, no. I'm going to ask Chris's question. Why are we valuable?
Can I jump in, or are we still in the chats?
Everyone carry on in the chats while Sam talks.
I was getting ready to hide in the chats again. When you said that, my mind went straight to Buddhist vein of thought, spurred on by what Jerome's been saying, and obviously what some of my views are on what this existence is. On the materialistic, why I think black, by the way, that's how I mean it, people are valuable is because, you know, the earliest or the oldest complete fossils of humans, when, you know, 3D modern technology is applied to the analysis of what they might look like today, they look like you and I. Those same people who look like you and I are behind great phenomenons of pyramids. You guys, you know all of this science, spirituality. You know about the Moors when they came over and significantly contributed to the development of Europe through art, philosophy, science, building materials, etc. And then more contemporary, which is something that's always been with us anyway, but I guess a modern manifestation of this, our now current black culture. The rhythms that we employ in our music, our gait, the way how we walk, our fashion, even our language, a lot of it is very much, you know, you can liken it to instruments as well, very guttural in some instances, you know, when we look at languages like Yoruba, for example. And I'll leave it there because I don't speak Yoruba and I'm not about to embarrass myself.
Just say talking drum, you're good.
Let's go with that, man. Let's go with this. So that's on the materialistic. But I can't help but go back to Jerome's, I think, very important point about, I think basically, Jerome, correct me if I'm wrong, but you maybe questioned that we're not necessarily, in society is what you mentioned. And so then I kind of want to jump off the back of that and not butcher your vein of thought here, but that opens up an interesting point, because then in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so in society, yes. So what about outside of society? And I think it's also good to explore that kind of question. Now, it's hard to have that kind of discussion because all we know is society. So I guess, Jerome, you know, I'll welcome you here to, you know, obviously, Andre, you do that, but at like a later point, help me understand how we're valuable in society and not outside, just out of curiosity.
And right now we're talking about black folk, right?
Black folk
as a global community. So Jerome, did you want to respond to that?
Well, yeah.
Sorry, before you go, remember, folks, comments, chats, while we're going on, use the time to kind of like get your thoughts together. And then, please put them in the chat so that we can open it up a little bit into the conversation. So just now, Sam put like a whole heap of reasons why black people as a global community will be deemed valuable. Sounds like most of them were, a lot of them were based on contributions for most of the time, I would say, in terms of music, culture, history, all that kind of stuff. Interesting enough, you mentioned the first bones, which ties back to just plain existence. So, Jerome, go for it.
So I mean, the reason I say in society specifically there is because I guess I feel like I'm doubling down on this idea for myself, that for me, this whole value concept is a construct. So everything that Sam went through there shows that Black people have had a value when related to society throughout history. Obviously, the one example that was different there is for pure existence. But history, the contributions of the Moors, even the contribution of us to society, the fact that we have always almost been a reference point for society, even if you go back through the last century with the idea of everything that's been cool and become popular in Western society has almost been born out of Black. Even the idea of cowboys, I was reading the other day, cowboys was what they called the Black cow handlers until they started to become popularized. And then once it was popularized, then it became, well, everyone's now a cowboy because you like that. So that's the value to society, is society values Black, and this is why it's a construct in my mind. And because without that relative sphere, it's almost meaningless at the same time.
I'm gonna okay, so let's go through just because there were comments in the, sorry, there's a plane going over, just because of the comments in the chat. Let's go through Tony, Chris, and then Rizani has her hand up. So Tony, Chris, and then Rizani.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, obviously if you go back in history you can see our value, but even up until today, I think the fact that we're constantly exploited shows that we are valuable. I think what we then have to kind of just transition ourselves is how do we get the most out of ourselves and not let other people be taking our culture, be taking our human labor and everything like that. But yeah, I would say we are most definitely valuable. That was just a quick point I was making, because we're exploited all over the world, even if just the workforce of Black folk, like the contribution that we make. Yeah.
Can I throw something in there just as a, and you can correct me if I kind of take it too far from the actual words, but I'm always very big on vernacular, as you say. So can I suggest that from what you're saying, it's the idea that we're exploited tells us how other people perceive our value. The only reason I say that is because when you said the question, you said something along the lines of the fact that we're exploited makes us valuable. Something about the makes. I'm not sure if I'm
right. Yeah. I get you. If we hone in on that, I think it's that notion of we provide value, because to exploit something, you only exploit something that's valuable. I think that's where I'm trying to go with it. So we have value, so that is why you see us being treated the way we're treated, and our culture, our everything from going back in the day to now, we are being exploited because we are of value, kind of thing. If we had no value, they'd be bothering other people and just leave us alone, kind of thing. If that makes sense. That's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Dope. And then it was Chris, and then it was Rizani.
Was there something specific that you want me to tap onto?
So you said the only reason why Africans' value is ever in question or debate is 1, evidence, 2, harnessing of unity. I think I know what you're talking about, but just elaborate on that.
I think my underlying question is I'm wondering where your destination is with this part of the debate or discussion. I think if we're talking about Black people overall, and this is leading within context to the Pan-Africanism agenda of 2063 with the AU, then when we're talking about is the early stages of how do we all learn to get along within ourselves, and how do we start to revalidate evidence to support that? Because as a community, we need proof to get us all on the same page, which is what white communities or the Caucasian kind of community have done successfully, even if it has all been stolen and misappropriated and bleached. But what we then have to do is, I think we need to get over this mindset where we all need to be we all need to agree with everything all at the same time. The reason why there are consistent civil wars across the 54/55 states or nations across Africa is because there are communities that were never intended to work together. So therefore, which is part of the 2063 plan, if you look at the African Unity Agenda, is they've already started moving in blocks. ECOWAS, ECHO, Southern African states, and the northern place where they kind of refuse to be black. So with the agenda of then amalgamating, I guess that's the only thing I can really add until I know where you want to kind of head with it.
Don't worry, you'll see. Okay, cool. Nice. I think Rosanna, you had your hand up a minute ago.
I did.
If you're still there. You're not muted.
Yay.
Wait, you sound really far away.
You know what? It's my headphones. I'm trying to.
Can anyone hear?
But I'm not.
Okay, there we go. There you go. Much better.
I was saying that I'm going to throw. I probably won't be a spanner. I'm just going to share my idea. I think like the idea of value within our community, I think Black people as a whole need to do a lot better at supporting and finding value within our own communities. Need to do better at, supporting and finding value within each other. And I think for me, with my experience, when I encounter, and I'm going to say this as a general thing, it's not always the case, but majority of the time when I'm having conversations with people from the African diaspora and they find out that I was born in South Africa and then I moved here, I'm already treated like I am not one of them. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it is that thing where it's like finding our value and understanding our value is our own responsibilities. But I think together as a community, we can do a lot more work to like support and hold each other, and it's very interesting people, going back in history, speaking about stuff, the same way our history didn't start with slavery is the same way, white history didn't start with them just being colonizers. Do you know what I mean? Like Black people have enslaved Black people have enslaved white people. It's like, it's finding the value in that thing about gender, the thing about sexuality, the thing about, as a Black woman, there are places where I don't feel valued by other Black people, whether it be men or women, and I don't think that's like a singular experience. I don't think I'm unique. I think there are a lot of people who struggle within the community to find a connection because there's so many boxes that you have to tick. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when people of color, when Black people are asking me, but like, were you born here or where were you born? And like trying to put me and stuff. I just think, when we're talking about value within ourselves and society, starting at home is always a good place to start.
Definitely, and thank you for the spanner. I think that's a good point, and it was actually something that I was going to be bringing up in a minute, but seems like a good point at the moment. The question we just asked is, shoot, what was the question? Do we value ourselves as a community? I hear you, but we need a little bit. If we start to rank, let me just go through some of these comments real quick. Jerome says, and this is exactly Tony's point, if there is no value, exploitation is also not possible. The concept of requiring ourselves to find value is a burden of not being valued. Interesting. If we get rid of this construct, in our minds, we will find ourselves looking forward, not back. Interesting. We are crucified for trying to be loyal to ourselves, says Chris. Jerome says value can only be used to divide. Chris disagrees, but he understands why he says that. Esther says, believing someone has more value than you and vice versa is what causes division. Chris says, I hear you, but we need to be a little bit more careful when we talk about African enslavement versus colonial enslavement. I'm assuming that's talking about Rizani's comment. Sam says, if we start to rank who is more valuable than others, then yes, that causes division. However, one can take pride in themselves for various reasons, history, culture, etc. Chris, would you mind elaborating? Okay, cool. Next, for now, let's just move on to the next section just because of time. I wanted to ask this question earlier on when we were talking about our individual value and everything. And this section, I almost deliberately haven't really spent time focusing on white people's perception of our value. But what I wanted to ask is, how do we show ourselves and everyone else basically how much we value ourselves? So that's the question, yeah? So hold on, let me see if I can write that in a in a way that makes sense. How do we show Okay, so Tony says love. Sam says not letting people take advantage, healthy boundaries. Is that individual or as a community? So this question is as a community, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I make that more, sorry, as individuals, but okay, I'll rethink.
No, that's cool. I mean, it could still apply. I'm just asking the question because as a community, we could be talking about that, not being taken advantage of, and creating healthy boundaries as a community. Still makes sense. I just wanted to clear it up. Tony says everything comes back to Black love, and Esther says how you treat yourself. So let's go Tony and then Esther, and then maybe back to Sam.
Yeah, cool. Me again. Hey, this is fun.
Yeah, my turn.
I'm here today. Yeah, I think for me, like every time I have these conversations, obviously with my people, I think it all comes down to love, because I think a lack of love means if you take violence against each other, if we looked at each other and loved each other like we love ourselves, or even just loved ourselves, because there's a lot of self-hate going on, then I think that would eradicate some of those issues. If we loved each other, we'd support each other in our businesses, etc., which would lead to economic power and therefore be able to invest back into our own communities. So that's why I think it starts with just having some kind of self-love, some kind of Black love, which would then result in us valuing each other more. And that's where I think it really stems from, because I think there's a lot of self-hate that goes on. We don't support each other really on a grand scale. Now it seems like, obviously post the George Floyd thing and everything like that, there's a whole movement of, support the Black pound, etc., etc. But these are things that we should have been doing anyway, kind of thing. And I think the more and more that we do of that and recognize that there is value in each other and we keep everything internal within our communities, then we can progress, we can prosper, I believe.
Okay, come on with it. Esther.
Yeah, I think it starts with you and how you see yourself and how you view yourself. I feel like if you don't view yourself, like the word says, like love your neighbor as yourself. But if you don't love yourself, how can you love your neighbor? You love your neighbor how you view yourself. If your life doesn't matter to you, then why will anyone else's life matter to me? Like it just stems from that. And same with if you allow someone to continuously talk down to you, beat you down, say you're worthless, whatever, all these kind of things, and you allow someone to continue to do that, it's because you're allowing it because you're probably yourself are thinking that, and you're now perpetuating that by allowing someone to now say that about you and to you. Until you value yourself and value you as a human being, regardless of all the like whistles and bells, you will not no one else is going to value you, and it shouldn't even matter unless you value yourself. So that's why I said it's how you treat yourself. People will only do what you allow. That's what I truly believe. People will only do what you allow. And if you are willing to allow someone to constantly barrage you, beat you down, or whatever, what does that say? How do you see yourself in those instances? How do we as a community see ourselves if we allow people to just walk all over us continuously all the time, and we ourselves have invited?
And I think one of the things that Rosanna says, coming together, supporting each other, definitely agree. If I was, because in my head, because I know you're probably talking in an individual basis, but I'm actually thinking about it as a community as well. So if I was to translate what you just said in a community sense, then what you're saying is that first of all, as a community, we need to love ourselves. But then I like what you said about we wouldn't allow certain things. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is the concept that if we don't feel like we are one, and we go back to that division concept, there's something that happens to someone across the waters may not necessarily, we may not react in the same way as we would if someone was closer in proximity and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's say, for example, as a Black community, we wouldn't allow certain things to happen. So if something happens on the bus to someone else, and all the Black people get up, and every time something happened, all of us got up, every time without fail, whether it's us to ourselves or other people to us, or even to us and other people. Like if we treat other people in a way that isn't divine, we all got up and took ourselves to the side and be like, no, you're better than this. That could be a way to tangibly kind of like show what you're talking about as well. But yeah, that's a good point. Who was next? We had Sam, and then Cads, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think, yeah, what Esther said is definitely well said, and I agree. It comes from self. Off the back of your original question as to whether what I stated originally was pertaining to the individual or the group, thinking about it, it does actually translate. So thanks for that, because, and it links to what Esther was saying, right? There's a old East Asian saying, I think by Confucius, who I think I might butcher now at this point, in terms of the saying that is about good family. There you go. I'm really starting butchering it. Great start. I think it goes something like good family, good street, good neighborhood, good, so and so, basically. So it all starts from the home. And I think to bring it even more down to the micro, pertaining to what I'm still saying, if there are, if there are parents who have done the work themselves and who've had the fortune of coming across knowledge of self in many different facets, whether it be history, psychology, etc., and then build each other up, stay strong in their unison with confidence. They themselves are now confident, so then they'll be able to now impart that confidence and teach their children how to remember their inherent value. And I think that's essentially it, that it can, you can just teach. Once you're confident in yourself, then there's more of a authority when you have, when your opportunity comes to sort of teach others to be confident themselves as well. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no doubt. Cads?
I just want to say, being open-minded enough to be honest with yourselves, and I think that for me, that starts there. Once we start being open-minded and being open-minded enough to be honest with ourselves, because it goes back to one of the sessions we done about the whys, the 10 whys. I don't know if you guys remember it, where you got asked once, why? I started using that, and I found out, talking to people are not genuinely honest with themselves, because they don't want to ask that tough question. They don't want to be asking that question within, to say, why this? Why am I like this? Why do I do this? And start asking the questions, because the more you ask, and in order for you to just get deep within yourself, to understand it. You need to be honest enough to say, you know what, I'm going to have a journey within myself and just understand that. And then that would translate into self-love, and that would translate into the bigger thing we're talking about. And the second point I wanted to make about, and I said Patrice Evra versus Luis Suarez, and that's in relation to what Andre has been saying. I see that a lot, because Patrice Evra, for those who do not know the story, was abused by Luis Suarez, racial abuse and whatnot. And although Liverpool had some black players, none of them came out to speak. No one said anything. When they met, Patrice Evra decided he was going to shake Luis Suarez's hand, and behind him was Rio Ferdinand. And he went to shake Luis Suarez's hand, and Luis Suarez has decided, no, I'm not shaking your hand, and just blanked him. So then Luis Suarez went to shake, what's his name again, Rio Ferdinand's hand. And Rio Ferdinand was like, no, I ain't shaking your hand. And this is an example of solidarity. That's what we need to do. If something happens to one of us, not because it's across the sea, we need to all make some noise about it. We need to all say something about it. If something happens to this person, you need to be able to just say, you know what, this person is my brother, she's my sister, and then just come together. And that goes back again to what I was saying, being open-minded enough to be honest with yourself, to journey within, to understand yourself, and to love yourself. So, and then from there, you can start. So that just going to the root, go to the root to start understanding that. And in order to journey there, it's all about in here. Open your mind to open your heart. And then, when it starts there.
Come on, preacher. All right. No, I like that. Dope. I think it's 8:30. So I'm going to start rounding up now. One of the things I wanted to mention is in your emails, I don't know who has had the opportunity to read it yet, but there's a couple of bits of resources in there, right? So there's a book called Brainwash, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority. I don't know if you read that already, but it's got a link for it in there. And there's another book, which is about racial capitalism. I kind of chose not to focus on that principle today, but maybe it's something that I would focus on later, just because it's the relationship between capitalism and racism, and how certain civilizations were built, but then trying to turn it around to look at it at that concept of, similar to what, I can't remember who said it, but I think it might have been Tony, about the reason why they exploit is because they see the value, or something along those lines. But then also got another book called When We Ruled in there, and there's a YouTube video it's called Business in the Black, and it's all about value. In fact, no, I won't play it now. I'll leave it for you to watch, just because it's a bit. Actually, no, I think I might be able to find it. I'm gonna see if I can find it right now. It's not something I had loaded up, but it's really short. It's only like a minute and a half or something like that while we close up. But in the meantime, I want to ask a question in the group. How are we going to mobilize what we've talked about today? So how, in terms of our value, are we going to... Actually, no, let me ask the question. 1 month from now, how would others be able to quantify, how should I word it? How will others be able to quantify what our perceived value is? The grammar just did not work in my favor. But so effectively, if someone was to come to you a month away, and I'm saying that as opposed to like right now, because I'm assuming that after this conversation, we've had an idea about quantifying it for ourselves, defining it. We talked about metrics. We talked about the concept of like inward out versus outward in, all that kind of stuff. So some of it might take time to start putting it in motion. So some of the stuff we might be doing right now might not be how we may be behaving over the next week or month. Now we've had this conversation. So if you were to go a month ahead, how can someone who was to look at our behavior tell how that we value ourselves? That's the question. So go into the chats while I find this video, and then just try and answer it as best as you can. A couple of responses already coming up. One of them is Jerome says, value is a tool to be used. It's a knife. It's a knife. It can be used to divide, use or kill, or used to be shaped. Okay, I think that was a comment about something else. Sam says, career-wise, keep track of what you've done and toot your horn when it comes to interviews, appraisal, etc. Exactly, yeah. Ridzani saying, where I spend my money. Esther says, who I speak to, how I speak about myself. That's important. That's very important. Keep going in the comments while I feel like I'm getting warmer. I think, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm gonna share screen with you right now. And what I want you to do is I want you to carry on writing what you're doing. And we're just gonna watch a video. It's literally like 1:10 long. And then we'll come back to it and we'll see where we're at. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is one word that always pops up in my mind when I think about growth from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and it's value. When I say value, it's not only the value that you put on yourself, but it's the value that others put on you. And I remember a time, we went after this contract that was for us. We felt the contract that was going to take us to the next level. And it fit perfectly into our core values, what we were about, the things that we've done, our mission was for our city, and we lost. And we looked at it and said, hey, how do we grow from this? But the funny thing was, I get a call a few weeks after that to be told that, hey, this marketing initiative is about to launch. We would really love your support. If you can help push it out and market it, because the success of it is success for everybody in the city. My question was, didn't the firm win and get a contract to do that exact job? His answer was, yeah, but your support would really mean a lot to help you push it out. What that told me was we had value. We brought something to the table, but we weren't valued enough to get the contract to implement the work. That day I said no, because I knew the value that we had and I knew the value that we deserved. Saying no is a hard thing being an entrepreneur. But if you say no to value yourself, you're saying yes to yourself, and you can never be wrong when you're doing that.
All right, wicked. I just wanted to share that because I came across it recently and I thought it would be a good way to kind of like put towards the end. Let's see some of these comments then. So we've got Jerome says, to me, it comes down to who you're showing your value to. It can change depending on the situation. That's not an answer, bro. So imagine an example of a person and how they will be able to tell what you value about yourself based on your behavior. Okay, wicked. While we're going through all of that, thank you everyone for listening. Is there anything anyone wants to share towards the end? I know, Chris, there were a couple of things that we kind of had to sidestep as you went through. I don't know if anyone else had anything you wanted to bring up, but this would be the time to do so. If there's any aspects of it we haven't covered, or maybe we can put into like another session. Say it now or forever hold your peace. You can take yourselves off mute and stuff if you need to. Okay, cool. I'll check through the comments and stuff as I go anyway, just to make sure I haven't missed anything colossal. Jerome says recording. Oh, okay, cool. I'll stop recording after when I'm sure people don't have anything else to add. into it. Yeah. So no one has anything to add? Do you know what's going to happen in it? As soon as I press stop recording, everyone's going to start talking about something.
Do it. Don't do it.
You remember that time when it happened the other day and it was like
2 hours extra.
Listen, and we lost all of that because that whole conversation was lit, bro. Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Stay on mute then, and then and then I'll keep recording just so I don't miss anything. Okay, how's everyone found that session? You can either put it food for thought, Esther says. Sam's showing his video just to answer this one. Go on.
I was just gonna say it was really good. There wasn't really like anything really like really elaborate after that, but no, it was really good, man. As per.
No doubt. Is there anything you think we've missed? Obviously, there's actually loads of stuff we missed, like even in my notes. But is there anything substantial that you think would need to be covered as part of this conversation that maybe I should put into another talk or something? Caramel says, mind and soul feeding as always. Thank you all. No?
I guess one thing I would add is maybe collectively just submitting any suggestions of what people could do to boost their self-confidence, because ultimately I think a common answer, maybe not the answer, but a common answer that's come out of this discussion is what's most important is how you view yourself and how you talk to yourself. And so, yeah, if people have got any suggestions, you know, if it's affirmations, if it's maybe a positive trigger that they can employ in their lives whenever they're feeling a bit, you know, not as confident, you know, things to be grateful for in a jar, whatnot, you know. So yeah, methods of encouraging.
Yes, Esther.
Yeah, encouraging self-worth, I guess, and just reminders more so, because it's always in you. So just reminding yourself of your value and your importance.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. It's easy to forget sometimes. One of the things I'll point out is that in addition to, well, not in addition to, but in response to what you just said, we have a session coming up which might be useful for that very topic. Let me just find the schedule. Right now we're on Price and Prejudice. Yes, the next session, in fact, Monday, is Wellness to Well-Being. So that is literally going to be talking about everything you're talking about, ways for us to remember our value, ways for us to navigate, you know, our lives and stuff, ways for us to take time, ways for us to take space, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be discussing all of that on Monday's session. So maybe you'd find some of the answers there, because I know I'm going to do like a few exercises where we really are going to brainstorm stuff, and I'm going to try and find someone who can come and maybe lead a portion of that. But it's going to be like a just like it'll be good to get like a whole list of things. Some things are probably going to be obvious, but really I want to get to the not so obvious things that have big impact as well in that session. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you register as soon as you come off this. Jerome says, yeah, good. I feel like although a lot of the points, even if they were disagreeing, almost double down on my idea that this is just a construct. So thanks all. Absolutely. And a construct is something you can take ownership of. So like you can take it and be like, I don't agree with this, and I acknowledge that it can be changed. And I feel like there's power in that, you know, whatever the environment is. So definitely something big to take away from that. Tendai says, so it's my first time here. Welcome. I really enjoyed it. It was thought-provoking, things I will go away thinking about and hopefully grow from the reflections. Absolutely. If there's one thing that I really want from these kind of talks is that we go away and think and just get in the habit of thinking, and, you know, not take everything as a solid, this is the way it has to be, but actually question it, you know, critical thinking in that sense. So it's brilliant that you take that away. Ruzani says, I will definitely be thinking about this for a bit. Thank you. You're welcome. And so will I. A lot of thoughts brought that. And one thing I love about the group is that, like, you know, I'll come in thinking, you know, oh, we could do this, that, and the third. And then once we're in here, everyone's got such different ideas and experiences that you always throw some really thought-provoking stuff in there. So I got as much out of it as you all did, which is amazing. Okay, like I said, next session is going to be Monday. All the sessions are Monday and Friday, 6:30 p.m. If there's anyone here who's not in my WhatsApp group, just send me your number and I would add you to that. And in that WhatsApp group, you basically get the direct link to the sessions. Quick question, that direct link, is anyone use that direct link in the WhatsApp group to come into the session? And if so, does it work? Or do you just go from the emails?
I used the direct link from the session, but it still takes me to the website to register to come into the room.
Yeah, I'm still finding trouble finding a way to bypass that, because it used to work, but like I said, I think since Zoom did its updates, it's kind of meant that we still have to do that. I'll still continue doing it because people are saying that there's still value in it. Yes, Tendai, I just got yours. I'll add you to the WhatsApp group. That's wicked. Jerome's got a bounce. No worries. Oh no! Okay, you're not late yet. Okay, you can still make it. Wicked. So we're coming to the end of the month. There's only a couple of sessions left. So basically we have next session, which is wellness to well-being, which, like I said to Sam, is going to be looking at that well-being concept and how we can use that to harness it in our everyday. And I'm really going to be looking for the everyday practical stuff. So I think it's dope having like the kind of like spiritual concepts and stuff, but what can we do in the actual moment? Like, what can we do when someone's shouting at us at work? What can we do when you know, we get challenged with a question we don't have an answer to and people are looking at us? What can we do when we're faced with a decision when raising our children, kind of thing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what can we do in that bit to keep us grounded, keep us rooted, keep us well holistically, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in a way that when we're walking forward, we have tools that we can use in those kind of scenarios. So that's what we're going to be looking at on Monday. And then next week, Friday, is the open forum. Now, the open forum is a session we have at the end of each month. And the idea is that you, beautiful people, bring the topics, bring the thoughts, bring all that kind of stuff. So it's a space, if there's something that you want to talk about that's happening online, at home, whatever it might be, that you just want to bounce people's thoughts and see what we think, that's the place for it. If you got a business coming up and you if you, for example, have released a new album, Tony, and people have a free download of it, then that's your point to, like, you know, just blow it out the water and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, if you check your emails, the link is already there. And it can be a space for any of that stuff. Yeah. So that's also, Esther, we want to ask about locations, innit?
Yeah, so because the weather's been lush-ish, nice, I was thinking that we should actually finally all meet up in person. So I know obviously there's still a pandemic and people are still cautious, so it's fine. So I was going to do it in an open space, in a massive park. We can have picnic, people can bring stuff, bring their families, bring their little ones, get to meet each other in person. And I think it would be really beautiful, because we've been doing this since March? I'm asking you to confirm.
Probably about that. Okay. Yeah,
from March. And it's been beautiful to actually see people in real life. I think it would actually be really amazing. And if people are welcome to hugs, they're welcome to have hugs from me, because I love hugs. But yeah, so if people could, sort of let us know sort of your location, just so I can kind of try and get a central area that people can go to. It won't be great for everybody, but if people can get there, that'd be great. And just so I can get numbers, and yeah, we can have food. People bring food, bring speakers, we can have music, chat.
Can I throw something into the mix? Only because this happened since our catch up the other day, or was it today even? My whole thing is like gone through the roof. Money Mons.
That's in Kennington, her thing.
Yeah. Mon, you there? She ain't. Basically, on the 2nd of August in Kennington Park, Mon's DJing. and we all know what that means. Yeah, so that can be an opportunity for us to do that. We can do like a separate one just in general anyway, but I think since she's doing it, it might be a good opportunity for us to use
Brilliant idea.
as an excuse, because right now we've got Peckhamshire, we've got
Oh
Brixton,
my gosh, Mabel.
we got Finsbury Park, we got Brixton, we got Croydon, all that kind of stuff. So Crystal Palace. So I think maybe we can aim for like maybe that second, as we got Queen's.
Wait, Dre, you didn't say it right.
What did I say?
Pakenhamshire. That's how you're supposed to say it. Pakenhamshire.
Pakenhamshire. I'm so
yeah.
What a faux pas on my part.
Yeah.
So so S is putting it there. 2nd of August, Sunday, from 1 to 7 o'clock. If you go onto our website, the main one, becomeimmersive.co.uk, just the homepage. Hold on, let me put this in there. www.becomeimmersive.co.uk. Bang, there's your link. Let me see if I can get that on screen, because I want to show you some. Okay, let me share the screen real quick. Okay, cool. So if you go down here, bam, ba, bam, 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 chang, 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 dance and release. All right, so here, this will take you to the Facebook page with all the information you need. Kennington Park, it's from 1 o'clock till 7 o'clock. There's other DJs, there's other things going on. There's like dance competitions and ciphers and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be a whole heap of stuff. But yeah, we can basically within that space kind of find our own little spot, bring food, bring snacks, bring like a little mat to sit on, all of that good stuff, and then we can use that. And then what we can do as well is after that we can maybe talk about another one if we you know that way feel, and that one can be maybe centralized. Is that cool with everyone? So if you need any info, go to the website and it will take you straight to her page. Noza said that was quick. What happened? What was quick? Esther says, and it's a lovely park and plenty of transport links as well as parking in the surrounding streets. In these streets. Okay, wicked. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Over the next few sessions, I thought we decided on a location. Yeah, Kennington Park for Monsting. Or did we decide on a location on a previous session or something? For now, let's just make it Kennington for the second, and then after that we can figure out when our next catch up is going to be. Over the next month or so, we got a lot of stuff we're going to be announcing, but for now, I'm just going to park that to the side. One of the things I do want to say is, or ask, is if people have stuff that's going on, if you can put it into the chats right now. Put your Instagram handles, Twitter handles, and all that kind of stuff, as well as what you do. But then if you have like an event coming up, preferably with a link, please, if that would be great if you could. And then what I'll do is I can maybe like use that to put that either on our website or within the mailing list or something like that, so we can come and support you. Mabel, you got any albums coming?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. No, I'm just working on a lot of stuff musically and stuff. So hopefully this, I say August, because you know I work in schools and stuff. So I'm using this August time to kind of like bring things out. So, but thanks for all those who joined in my lives and stuff and commented. That's so nice. Thank you. Appreciate you.
If you know about those in advance, just send us the link and I'll.
I don't listen. It's like spontaneous.
Right. Okay.
Like, but if I do, I'll do something, and then probably get DJ Monique.
DJ Money Moms in the building.
Yes.
Chris, you want to take the space for the Sacraria stuff? Also, before you say that, the adversary maneuvers, if you look at your emails, there's a link to that already on there. So go for it, Chris.
Dope. Thank you for sending that out. Just really quickly, I'm trying to figure out dates at the moment. But what I'm thinking about doing is, I've mentioned this before, but I think it will either probably be August or maybe just the very beginning of September, depending on your schedule for this program, is actually running a free scenario session for you guys. It will be 8 participants, 2-hour immersive experience through your laptops. And it will be based on one scenario about how to, it's called inheritance. So it's how to evaluate trauma within the African, within the community, or how to formulate forgiveness on multiple tiers as a strategy. And we can actually put that into action. So that's one example. I will speak to Andre about possible dates and viability, and I'll get back to you ASAP. So I was getting some stuff sorted. I just wrote like 50 pieces of content in 10 days. So we can we'll just sort out some of that and we'll get back to you guys ASAP.
All right, cool. You let us know the dates. Is that something where we're coming to you physically? Or
No. We can do it online. I'm very aware of quarantining and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a full online experience now. So cool. I'll speak to you. Well, after you take a break, we'll chat. And
okay, cool.
All right, cool.
No problem. Wicked. And Esther's talking about her book club. Do you want people, Esther? Do you want people to just email you?
No, just follow me on Instagram because I think I've got a list of people that I'm going to email tomorrow. Basically, tomorrow's the day. You'll see stuff. Just follow that. No Place Like Home.
Okay.
Or you can follow me on my actual Instagram, and then anyway, you'll see tomorrow. But yeah.
Okay. Oh, how exciting! All right. Anybody else? Sam's put his link in there. I think hidden pages. Definitely give a look at that. You've got a new branding thing going on. I see you. Bite-sized Black History Archive. So it's good stuff. And also he's been on the podcast as well. Lion Learns to Write. So keep an eye out for that as well, because it's already in there. Same with Chris. And I probably actually thinking about it. Maybe this is Ridzani's been on there as well. I need to get some more people on here as well. Nose has been on there. Listen, you lot are all about that. Arthur's been quiet today. Wagwan. But in general, yes, Nose's book. So in the emails, is everyone watching the emails? Because in it has links to all of this stuff. So Nose's book is in there. Liz's book is in there. We've got Tony Az's album is in there. We got Esther's financial planner link is in there. We've got Chris's podcast is in there. We've got Caramel Soldiers, embroidery, and just all of that kind of stuff. Her creative pages, products are in there. Rudzani, when's your podcast coming up? Is it still happening? If you're still there, maybe not. It is, she said. Okay, wicked. So as well, when that comes up, let me know. If you just send me a link, and I'll add that to that as well, if that's cool with you. I am the tea. Is that a whole sentence?
Andre, you need to stop, I'm trying to be discreet about my shit. I know I sent it to everyone, but allow it.
Sorry, listen, I'm acting a fool tonight. I'm so sorry. If you, Chris says, if you do listen to Maneuvers on Apple Podcasts, a little review would go a long way before we mass promote. Question, Chris, for the Apple Podcast, do you have to have, like, if I don't have an account, can I still review, or do I need to, like, how does that work if you don't?
I think you can. I'll be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure, but if you basically, I've given you guys the link which takes you to the website, and there's an Apple button, and you hit the Apple, and then you go there, and I believe you can leave a review direct. Okay. It's also on Spotify as well, and Google Podcasts is coming, I guess, in a week or so. But if you can, it's not mandatory. I won't hold it against you, but if you have some spare time, it would be really helpful.
Definitely. And last but not least at all, I really just want to share this last bit with you, which is actually kind of important that a couple of you have done already. If you go to the website and you go to what we do at the top, it has a drop down called Become Talks. On that page is a list of all our stuff. I need to update that. At the bottom, you have a section where you can add comments. Now, this is important because when we try and show people our proof of social proof, it's important that we have people who are active. So if you're on here and you're enjoying the talks and you're finding value in it, please do get to the page and write a comment. We've got one from Mabel, we've got one from Jerome already. If everyone can do that, we'll be eternally grateful. This is on the becomeimmersive.co.uk/become talks page. Yeah, just go there and it's got all the information for the later upcoming talks, but then also has that space at the bottom. Okay, cool. And just peruse. There's a whole lot of stuff coming up there soon that, listen, we're working out here. All right, cool. Everyone good? Everyone all right? Caramel says, Esther, she's the first, Caramel's the first to follow. Okay, everyone's good, wicked. Okay, have an amazing night, folks. Whatever you get up to, be good, God bless. Make sure you get some food and rest, because I ate before the session and it changed my life, mate. I'm telling you. Unfortunately, I'm hungry again, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about right now. Have an amazing weekend, and we see you on Monday when we're talking about wellness to well-being. So we'll see you on Monday, and remember to message people, share the links and all that kind of stuff, and just let people know. If you're finding it valuable, let people know, especially those who would find it valuable as well. All right, I'm going to end this in about 10 seconds. So say goodbyes now.
Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, love you.
Amazing.
Don't forget your valuable.
See ya, people.
Bye,
Bless people.
everyone.
Stay blessed.
Peace,
love, and hair
Hey,
grease.
Samuel, love to the family. Bless
Peace,
everyone.
Tony. I'll pass it on, man.
All
Yours too.
good, brother.
We need to link up soonish, man. This guy's about to lock down the chat. We need to consider this another time.
Listen, yeah, I've got a bounce in it. So. But yeah, connect outside of it. And listen, like I said, and Tony, music is popping right now as well. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I'm looking forward to Mabel's launches and everything. And even Alim Kamara released one this week as well. So Sierra Leone is doing his thing. But for now, peace.
Peace.
All right, we out.